Hey everyone, welcome back, or welcome if you're new. Today we're just taking a look at another SSD that I had for a project that I'm messing with, and I'd like to talk a little bit about it. This is the Patriot P210. Patriot products largely have been fine over the years. I haven't really used much recently, but I used to use a lot of RAM back in the day that came from Patriot, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes. This particular drive is the 1 terabyte model, and basically Patriot seems to say that it's a pretty, quote, high performance drive, not quite fully high performance. I like that they leave the little pluses on there, you see, to show you that it's like literally on the label to show you that it's not quite the best drive, but whatever. So yeah, standard 2.5-inch SSD. It's 7 millimeters thick, so that's kind of nice. Some drives still aren't quite that thin, but most are getting there, so that's kind of neither here nor there. This drive is a pretty standard in terms of form factor, obviously, like I said, and speeds are kind of pretty much standard as well. But otherwise, the drive's constructed well. At this point, I think we're pretty much to the point now with SSDs that generally the expectation is that they're constructed fairly well. And once it's formatted, you see that it's about 953 gigabytes. That's pretty standard for NTFS with the overhead for that. There's a whole thing I could deep dive into why NTFS does this, but that's not for this video. So Patriot claims a sequential read speed of 520 and a sequential write speed of 430. That's megabytes per second, of course. That is pretty true once file sizes get into the realm of reasonable, like sort of the 1 megabyte and up. Anything less than that, yeah, the write speed's a little slower, but that's about right. We sort of managed almost an even 509 write and 517 read. So, once the file sizes get up pretty high, things level out. But yeah, you're talking over 500 megabytes write and 530 to 540 read, as you can see here with this ATTO benchmark running. And that's pretty good. We can back that up pretty easily with running Crystal Disk Mark. And when I ran Crystal Disk Mark, we look at, for our standard like Q depth of 1, or I'm sorry, Q depth of 8, basically we have a sequential read of 562 and a sequential write of 508, and that's for a 32 gigabyte file. Yeah, so once files, it's kind of a thing with a lot of SSDs, of course, that once the file size gets above a certain point, then it's a bit faster. Obviously, tiny files, there's just a lot of overhead to get that going, so you're not going to see quite that. And it does pretty well for random reads and writes, but this SSD is a relatively cheap model. Taking a look at current prices for the 1 terabyte model, Amazon's probably, you're going to end up being around $55, $56, somewhere in there, at least for where I'm looking here. And the Newegg is also exactly the same, $55. So you can expect to be paying about $55.99 if we're going to be specific. And look, for a 1 terabyte drive that can do somewhere around 500 megabytes per second write and 560, 530 read, I'd say that's a pretty good deal. Taking a look at Patriot's website, you can get this nice little spec sheet. Very nice, yeah. And most of what I'm concerned about here is the actual specs of the drive. You can see that the endurance, quote unquote, is pretty much right in line with the capacity. And for the 1 terabyte model, you're looking at 480 terabytes written, and their mean time between failures is allegedly 1.5 million hours. So probably pretty decent. That's not terrible these days. I think some of the drives are built a little less good. Some of the older drives actually had a lot more endurance in them, but I think with prices coming down, we're realizing that we probably don't need to engineer them for quite the level of severe service that some other drives are made for. So that is what it is. And by and large, like I said, Patriot's been around for a long time, so I think you're probably going to get a pretty decent drive here. And that's about all for this video. Questions, comments, etc., leave those below. I have some Amazon affiliate links if you want to buy this, just for funsies. And that's all I've got. Thanks for watching.